My sister borrowed my 15-year-old daughter's brand new car, crashed it into a tree, and then called the cops on the child. Our parents lied to the police to protect my golden sister. I stayed silent and did this. 3 days later, their faces went pale when... You don't expect someone to bang on your front door a little after midnight when you've spent the evening doing absolutely nothing dramatic. I was in sweatpants, staring at a spreadsheet that refused to balance, a plate with the crumbs of boxed brownie mix on the coffee table. My daughter Lily had said goodnight an hour earlier. I heard her bedroom door click shut, heard the soft thump of whatever playlist she falls asleep to these days. It was a normal, boring Thursday night. A wild night. I know. So when the doorbell rang once, then again, then came the knock, hard enough that I actually jumped. I thought neighbor, package, maybe some delivery screw-up. Not two uniformed officers on my porch with that "we'd rather be anywhere but here" expression. "Ma'am? Aaron?" the taller one said, checking the clipboard like he wasn't sure how to pronounce my very basic name. "Aaron Collins?" "Yeah," I said, heart already doing something unpleasant. "Is everything okay?" They didn't answer that. They never do in the movies either, I noticed. "Are you the registered owner of a silver Civic? Plate number?" He rattled it off. It was my car. Lily's car. Same difference. "Yes," I said slowly. "What's going on?" "Miss Collins," the other officer said, softer. "Your vehicle was involved in a collision about 40 minutes ago. Single car crash into a tree outside your parents' residence on Oak Ridge Lane." My brain snagged on about 4 things at once. 40 minutes ago. Tree. Outside my parents' house. My car. "I think you've got the wrong..." I started, then stopped myself, because that's exactly what the guy in every bad true crime documentary says before they cut to mugshots. "I haven't left the house all night," I said instead, "and the car should be in the driveway." "Ma'am," the taller one said carefully, "we need to speak with your daughter. Witnesses at the scene identified her as the driver who left and came home. We're not making assumptions, we just need her account." There are moments when your body reacts before your mind catches up. I felt my stomach drop and my palms go cold, and at the exact same time some stupid part of me thought, 15, if she drove into a tree, she is absolutely grounded until she's 30. Then the rest landed. "Lily?" I repeated. "No, she's been here. She's asleep." The officers traded a look. It wasn't the "oh good, this was a mistake" look. It was the "this is going to be paperwork" look. "We're not here to accuse her," the second one added, "but people at the scene reported otherwise, so we have to follow up." People at the scene. Not your parents, not your sister. Just people. My stomach twisted harder. "Okay," I said, because my brain had apparently lost access to any other word. "Okay, can you give me a second?" I left the door open, both officers visible in the frame like a bad painting, and walked down the hall to Lily's room. The hallway nightlight threw that soft orange glow over the door. I knocked once and opened it. "Lil?" I whispered. She was in bed, hair wild, face creased from the pillow. Her eyes blinked open, unfocused. "What?" she mumbled. "Is it morning?" She was wearing the same oversized camp t-shirt she'd put on after her shower. There was mascara residue under one eye from where she'd been too lazy to fully scrub it off. She smelled like the lavender lotion she uses every night. This was not a kid who had just committed a felony and sprinted home. "There are police at the door," I said quietly. That woke her up. "Why?" she asked, sitting up, voice already tight. "They're saying there was an accident with the car," I said. "They're saying you were driving." Her mouth fell open. I haven't... Mom, I've been here. I didn't... I know. I said. I know. I stepped aside so she could see the uniforms in the hallway through the open bedroom door. Her face went pale in a single second. Miss Collins? One of them called. Can we speak with your daughter, please? I squeezed her hand once and nodded toward the living room. We walked back together. She tucked herself slightly behind my arm, 15 years old and suddenly looking about 9. Lily Collins? The shorter officer said. She nodded. Can you tell us where you've been tonight? He asked. In your own words? She's a minor, I said automatically, even though part of me wanted to scream. Are you serious right now? You can ask, but she's not answering anything without a lawyer present. Ma'am, the taller one said gently. We understand. We just need to confirm details about what witnesses reported. That's all. His tone said everything he wasn't allowed to. Whatever story they'd already been fed, it wasn't coming from us. Where's the car? I cut in. Excuse me? You said the car was involved in a crash, I said. Where is it now? In the impound lot, he said. It wasn't drivable. The front end was significantly damaged. Totaled, of course. And the people at the scene? I asked. Who exactly said she was driving? The officer hesitated just long enough to confirm my worst thought. We can't disclose that, but we did receive multiple statements. Multiple. Not one. Not someone confused. Plural. And they wouldn't tell me who. That was almost worse than naming them. Lily, I said, keeping my voice steady. Did you drive tonight? She shook her head so hard her hair whipped. No, she said, voice barely more than air. Mom, I swear, I haven't. You have the keys. I've been here. Please tell them. She has a permit, I said to the officers. She's only driven with me in daylight twice. You can check any camera in this neighborhood. She did not take that car tonight. There's no one alleging she had permission, the shorter one said. The concern is that she left the scene. He stopped because I think the look I gave him could have cut glass. I understand your concern, I said slowly, tasting every word. Here's mine. Someone out there is feeding you a story that doesn't match reality. And until we talk to counsel, she's not saying another word. The taller officer shifted, but didn't push. We'll note your refusal, he said. You'll hear from Detective Owens or the DA's office in the next couple of days. Please make yourself available. Trust me, I said. I'm not going anywhere. They gave Lily one last look. She stared at the carpet like it was the only thing keeping her from dissolving, then stepped out. I closed the door behind them and threw the deadbolt. For a second, I just stood there, forehead against the wood, listening to the sound of my own breathing. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that hums. Mom? Lily said, voice small. I turned. Her eyes were wide and shiny, but she wasn't crying yet. Her shoulders were up around her ears like she was bracing for impact. Am I... She swallowed. Am I in trouble? Are they going to, arrest me? It hit me then how young 15 really is. Old enough to be accused of a crime. Young enough to still ask your mother if the monsters at the door are real. Look at me, I said, crossing the room. She did. You did nothing wrong, I said. Nothing. You were here. You followed the rules. You are not in trouble with me. But they think... I don't care what they think, I said, more sharply than I meant to. I softened it. We're going to fix this, okay? I believe you. I know you didn't touch that car tonight. Her chin wobbled. I didn't, she whispered. I promise. I know, I repeated. I believe you more than I have ever believed anything in my life. She let out a breath that sounded like it had been locked in her chest for an hour. A single tear escaped and slid down her cheek. She wiped it away fast, almost angry at herself for letting it show. I'm not a bad driver, she said, like that was the worst accusation in the world. You're a careful driver, I said. That's why I bought you the car. That set off another ripple of emotion in her face, like she was trying desperately not to fall apart. Do you think Grandma and Grandpa really said that? She asked. That they saw me? My heart twisted. I didn't know. Not for sure. And the idea of calling them to ask made me feel like I'd be handing them my throat. I don't know what they said, I admitted. But whoever talked to the police didn't tell the truth. And we'll find out who. She nodded, but her eyes stayed damp. I want you to try and sleep, I said. Tomorrow we're going to talk to someone whose job it is to fix things like this. Like a lawyer? She asked. Exactly like a lawyer, I said. I'll make calls first thing. And whatever story they think they can pin on you. I brushed her hair back behind her ear. They're not ready for what's coming. She swallowed and nodded, finally curling back under her blankets. I turned off the light. I thought the knock at midnight was the worst of it. It wasn't. Not even close. When your sister is 10 years younger than you, people always assume you'll feel protective of her. They don't picture 16-year-old you babysitting a cranky 6-year-old while your parents go out because you're such a big help. They don't picture 20-year-old you, home from college for the weekend, walking a hungover 10-year-old to the bathroom because your parents think it's funny when she tries a little wine at family dinner. They certainly don't picture 38-year-old you, standing in your kitchen at 1 a.m, realizing that same golden child just tried to feed your kid to the wolves. Growing up, Jenna was the baby. That was her entire job description. She's still learning, Mom would say when she broke things that weren't hers. She's just expressive, Dad would say when she screamed at waiters. I was the responsible one. That was my job. You know Jenna is sensitive, Mom would tell me. You're older. You should understand. Funny thing about that phrase. You hear it enough, and eventually you do understand, just not in the way they meant. When Jenna got caught shoplifting lip gloss at 16, my parents drove to the store, begged the manager not to press charges, and then spent the entire ride home lecturing me about how important it was that I not make Jenna feel bad about this. When Jenna backed Dad's old sedan into a mailbox at 19, they joked about it for years. Remember when our girl tried to take out federal property? They'd say at Thanksgiving. Everyone would laugh. When I got into a minor fender bender in college because a guy cut me off in the rain, my mother didn't speak to me for 3 days. I just expected better from you, Erin, she finally said. You're usually so careful. Translation: your mistakes are character flaws. Hers are anecdotes. By the time I was in my 30s, divorced, working full-time, raising Lily, the script hadn't changed. I was the one they called when they couldn't figure out their online banking, when their internet went out, when they needed rides to doctor's appointments. Jenna was the one they called our free spirit as she moved in and out and back into their house, changed jobs every 6 months, and somehow always had money for new shoes. Jenna just hasn't found herself yet, Dad would say, pouring more gravy. You were always so focused. Focused is such a polite word for on your own. I learned to stop expecting fairness a long time ago. I learned to stop trying to convince them that maybe, just once, they could hold Jenna to the same standard they held me. It was like arguing with a church about their favorite saint. Then I had Lily, and for a little while, the whole golden child ecosystem didn't matter. Lily came into the world already apologizing. At least that's how it felt. She was the baby who cried whenever anyone else cried. The toddler who would put her toys away without being asked. The 7-year-old who would double-check that she'd done all her homework, then ask if there was anything else she could help with. "Are you sure she's mine?" I'd joke. "I don't remember ordering a child with this much conscience." She'd roll her eyes, but you could tell she secretly liked it. When her dad and I split, she handled it like someone twice her age, quietly compartmentalizing, talking it out with the school counselor when she needed to. She never slammed a door, never screamed, never pulled a Jenna. Her rebellion was forgetting to put her dishes in the sink. At 14, when most kids are begging to bend rules, she was the one reminding me of the speed limit. "Mom, it says 30, she'd say from the passenger seat. "Lily, we're going 28. Just saying, 30. The car was the one thing I'd let myself feel proud of. Years of scraping together small savings so that when Lily turned 15, I could hand her something solid, safe, and new. Not flashy, just freedom with airbags. On her birthday, my parents and Jenna came to our house for cake and the big reveal. I walked Lily to the door, told her to close her eyes, and when she opened them to see the silver Civic in our driveway, she made a sound I'll remember until I'm old. "Mom, no way," she whispered, already tearing up. My parents clapped. Jenna didn't. She was too busy staring at the car like it was something she'd ordered, but someone else got first. "Must be nice," she said lightly. "New car at 15. I didn't get my first until, 21? Lily, oblivious, hugged me so hard she nearly knocked the bow off the hood. Inside, Jenna hovered near the door, gaze flicking straight to the hook where the keys hung. Later, she asked, "Think I could take it for a quick spin sometime?" "Absolutely not," I'd said, laughing it off. "Nice try." A few days later, she dropped by again, and now, tonight, when I looked at that hook, one key was gone, and I had the terrible sense that whatever happened next wasn't an accident. The next morning, my inbox had a reply from the attorney. "Ari Kaplan, 8:02 a.m. Got your message. I can do a video consult at noon if that works. Someone, somewhere, was officially on our side." Wild concept. "Hey," Lily said from the doorway. She looked like she hadn't really slept. Same hoodie, same bun. Dark circles that did not belong on a 15-year-old. "They're not coming back, are they?" she asked. "Like, right now?" "Not without calling first," I said. "And next time, they talk to a lawyer, not you." She nodded, picking at her sleeve. "Am I supposed to go to school?" she asked, because of course she did. "Today your job is to not collapse," I said. "We'll email your teachers later." At noon, I clicked the video link. Ari looked exactly like expensive wood if it wore a tie. I gave him the short version. Lily's permit, the birthday car, my parents' house, the midnight knock, the story the officers said they'd already heard from my family. He listened, took notes, and finally said, "Okay, good news is there are no charges yet. Bad news is, if this stays just your word versus 3 relatives, the report will not be on your side." "So what do we do?" I asked. "Step 1, Lily doesn't talk to police without me present," he said. "You already aced that. Step 2, we gather proof. Anything showing Lily was home at that time, and anything showing your sister had the car." "Neighbor's doorbell camera," I said. "He practically runs a surveillance operation on Amazon packages." "Perfect," Ari said. "Ask nicely for footage from last night, and get me screenshots of Lily's activity from that window. Messages, calls, whatever. I'll pull the incident report, see exactly what your family told them." "Can you fix this?" I asked. "I can make it very hard to pretend your daughter was driving," he said. "That's a start." After we hung up, I found Lily on the couch, staring at a baking show without seeing it. "Well?" she asked. "We need proof you were doing what every teen does at midnight," I said. "Texting and doom scrolling." "I was," she said, offended. I was in my room the whole time. Good, I said. Let's weaponize that. We went through her phone together. At the time the officers said the crash happened, her messages with her friend were stacked like a blue wall, memes, commentary on some stupid plot twist, timestamps marching neatly across the screen. We took screenshots of everything. Then I went to the neighbor across the street and asked if his doorbell might have caught my car leaving. It had. On the playback, my front porch glowed in that weird camera gray. The car sat in the driveway. Jenna walked into frame alone, head down, keys in hand. She got into the driver's seat, started the engine, and drove away. No second figure. No 15-year-old. My stomach twisted, but my brain filed it under Exhibit A. He emailed me the clip. I forwarded it and the phone screenshots to Ari with a simple subject line. Here you go. An hour later, he called. Got the video, he said. It's great. Got the report too. Do you want the infuriating part? I've been training for it, I said. He exhaled through his nose, the kind of breath lawyers take when they're about to deliver something corrosive. All right, Ari said. The report says your sister claims she was at your parents' house the entire time. According to her statement, she looked out the window and saw Lily driving alone right before the crash. My stomach dropped, but he wasn't done. And your parents, he continued, voice tightening just a fraction. Backed that up. Both of them. They told the officers they saw a young girl who was definitely Lily behind the wheel. I closed my eyes. For a second, all I saw was my mother's face at Lily's birthday last week, smiling like she'd invented grandparenting. And that's written, Ari added, in signed statements. I let out a slow breath. So they picked a story and committed. Great. There's more, he said. They included little details. Stuff like, Lily has been getting more confident lately, and that you've been letting her push boundaries. None of it criminal, but enough to paint a picture. Of me being a negligent parent, I said. Exactly. He gave me a moment. It wasn't enough, but it was what we had. Now the good part, Ari said. The neighbor's footage completely contradicts them. It shows Jenna taking your car from your house alone, and Lily's phone activity lines up perfectly with her being home. It's clean. I gripped the counter with one hand. So what happens next? I'm sending everything to Detective Owens today, he said. I'll flag it for DA Whitman as well. Once they see this, the narrative shifts. Hard. And the follow-up meeting? I asked. Still scheduled. 3 days from now. Everyone will be in the same room. Your parents, Jenna, you, Lily. Of course. A family reunion hosted by the criminal justice system. Exactly what I wanted in my week. Aaron, he said, softer now. I know this hurts, but the evidence is strong. Let it speak. Yeah, I said, because my family sure won't. After we hung up, my phone buzzed again. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the text. We heard you got a lawyer. This is getting out of hand. Call us. Funny how getting out of hand only applied once I pushed back. I typed, you gave sworn statements about my child. This is out of hand. Talk to your attorney. I sent it before I could decide whether or not to be the bigger person. I've retired from that job anyway. I found Lily in the hallway, hovering like she could sense my mood without hearing a word of the call. Well, she asked. They backed Jenna, I said. I kept my voice even because screaming wouldn't fix anything. All 3 of them said they saw you driving. Something flickered across her face, hurt first, then something sharper. Oh, she whispered. Not tears, just a small, stunned oh. It landed harder than any crying could have. But we have the footage, I said. We have your phone. We have the truth. She nodded, jaw working like she was trying not to clench it too visibly. Mom, she said quietly, Why would they say they saw me? Because protecting Jenna was easier than protecting the truth. But I didn't say that. Because they were wrong, I said. That's all that matters now. She swallowed. Are you sure we're going to win? We don't need to win, I said. We just need to show what actually happened. And we can. She took a deep breath, steadying herself the way she does before school presentations. Okay, she said. Okay. I rested a hand briefly on her shoulder. She didn't pull away. For the first time since that knock at midnight, she didn't look terrified. She looked resolved. Small, but steel. And honestly, same. My parents could write whatever stories they wanted. Jenna could pretend the truth lived behind their curtains, but they'd forgotten one tiny, inconvenient thing. Cameras don't lie. And neither does my kid. Not this time. 3 days later, Lily and I sat in a cramped conference room at the station. Detective Owens sat at the head of the table, Mr. Whitman beside him. Ari flanked our side like a silent, expensive sword. Across from us, my parents and Jenna. If guilt had a smell, the room would have needed ventilation. We've reviewed new evidence, Owens began, tone professional. We want the record to reflect the accurate sequence of events. He opened a folder, turned a page, slid it forward so everyone could see. I didn't have to lean in. I'd seen the footage enough times. A still frame, Jenna in front of my house. Another, Jenna walking to the car. Another, Jenna behind the wheel. Alone. No Lily. Just Jenna and her terrible judgment. In addition, Owen said, Lily's phone data shows uninterrupted activity from her home during the time of the crash. Texts, streaming, everything consistent with her being at home. The silence that followed was so thick I could hear Lily swallow. Mr. Whitman looked at my parents. You stated you saw Lily behind the wheel. Would you like to amend that? My mother blinked rapidly. It was dark, she said, voice thin. We assumed. My father nodded like a dashboard bobblehead. We thought we were helping. Helping who exactly hung in the air like smoke. Whitman turned to Jenna. Your statement claims you watched Lily drive, panic, and flee. Do you stand by that? Jenna's mascara smudged as she stared at the table. No, I wasn't thinking. I got scared. I said she did it. For a moment, the room didn't move. Lily's hand tightened around mine, just once. Whitman closed the folder. Given this evidence, we are clearing Lily of all allegations. She will not be charged with any offense related to this incident. I felt Lily exhale. It was the sound of a weight leaving a body that had grown too small for it. As for you, Whitman continued, now addressing Jenna and my parents, this office is reviewing possible charges related to filing false statements. This level of fabrication involving a minor is serious. My mother made a small sound, hurt, outrage, maybe both, but no one rushed to comfort her. Miss Collins? Whitman asked, turning to me. Would you like to say anything? I didn't stand dramatically. I didn't raise my voice. I just spoke. For years, I said, I've been told to understand, to be the bigger person whenever Jenna messed up, to swallow things so she wouldn't feel bad. I looked directly at them. But you didn't just ask me to swallow this. You asked my daughter to. You were willing to bury a 15-year-old to protect a grown woman who stole a car and crashed it into your tree. Jenna cried. Mom reached for her hand. Dad stared at the folder like it held a different ending. You didn't hesitate, I said quietly. You signed your names. You didn't call me. You didn't check. You just chose the story that made your lives easier. I turned back to Owens and Whitman. Thank you for clearing Lily. Whitman nodded. We'll be in touch. That was it. No dramatic gavel, no shouting match. Just fluorescent lights, a few sheets of paper, and the sound of a family structure finally collapsing under its own weight. Outside, Lily walked beside me, shoulders a little looser. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded. "Yeah, just tired." "Me too," I said. "Let's go home." And we did. 6 months later, Oak Ridge Lane looks exactly the same. Except my parents' house. That one has a sold sign out front. Turns out filing false statements about a minor leaves a mark. Jenna ended up with a misdemeanor on her record. My parents got their own matching versions for knowingly providing inaccurate information. Not prison, but enough to make legal documents an adventure. I heard all of this from a cousin who still talks to them. We don't. Insurance denied everything. Unauthorized driver, conflicting statements, zero coverage. Ari filed a civil claim. They settled fast. Full value of the car, plus my fees. Then Jenna's fines hit. Then the attorney bills. The loans snowballed until the house had to go. Meanwhile, Lily's thriving. New, used Corolla, good grades, therapy sessions that actually help. Our home is quieter now, cleaner, safer. No toxic relatives, no second chances for people who showed us exactly who they were. Some say I went too far, others say not far enough. What do you think? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more. My mom texted my 11-year-old daughter, "Don't come for Christmas. It's better if you don't." She looked at the message, then at the gift for Grandma she'd spent 6 hours making. I didn't cry. I just replied, "Understood." 3 hours later, their lives started to collapse. There are moments when the entire world goes quiet. This was one of them. Not the peaceful, meditative quiet you get in yoga videos filmed by people who have never met anxiety. No. This was the someone just punched a hole through my reality quiet. Chloe stood in the doorway of our living room, holding her phone like it was something radioactive. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her face? Oh, her face. She looked like someone had unwrapped her heart, thrown it on the floor, and stepped on it with wet boots. She walked toward me in slow motion, like a little ghost in socks, and handed me the phone without blinking. The text glared up at me. "Don't come for Christmas. It's better if you don't." My mother's name was floating above it like a smug little cloud. I blinked, read it again. Then a third time, in case I had temporarily developed a rare condition that made sentences rearrange themselves into evil. Nope. Still evil. My brain did a full blue screen reboot. My heart did a weird, painful hiccup. My left eye twitched. Chloe watched me with the kind of stillness only she could manage. That quiet, contained way she has when something hurts too much for her body to process. Her lips pressed together, just the slightest tremble at the edges. She didn't cry. My kid never cries first. She freezes, like someone hit an emotional pause button. Then she looked at the gift. The gift. The handmade present she'd spent hours on. Hunched over the dining table, tongue between her teeth, focused so intensely she didn't even notice when I put a plate of dinner next to her. The present she made for Grandma, the one she kept checking on, adjusting, perfecting, and beside it, the gifts she made for her cousins, Owen, Ella, Ruby, all lined up like tiny pieces of her hope. She looked at them, then back at me. Nothing about her expression changed, but something inside me cracked so loudly, I swear I heard it. I think I need to... Chloe's voice was a whisper, barely air. I need to be alone for a little. My throat closed. Okay, sweetheart. She nodded once, small and mechanical, then walked down the hallway and gently closed the bathroom door behind her. Not a slam, not even a click, just a quiet, devastating little closure. And that was the moment I stopped being sad and started being dangerous. I picked up my phone, felt that tremor of adrenaline settle into something sharp, and walked into the kitchen, the only room in the house where I could pace aggressively without stepping on a Lego. I hit call Mom. She answered on the second ring, voice sugary in that way that made my molars itch. Hi! Hi, sweetheart! What is that message supposed to mean? There was a pause. A little theatrical sigh. Oh, Rachel. Let's not make this dramatic. My hand clenched around the counter. You told Chloe not to come. We all discussed it, she said, like we meant some grand decision-making council instead of the dysfunctional circus that is my family. Stephanie and Tyler agreed. The children agreed. It's just better this way. Better how? You know how she is, dear. And there it was. That tone. She'd already judged Chloe, so anything I said was automatically wrong. She just doesn't fit in with the other kids. There will be games, noise, chaos. It's not the right environment. She is your granddaughter. A beat. Yes, well, she said lightly. Not all children connect with big family gatherings, and the others said they wouldn't be comfortable. I'm just protecting them. Protecting them, I repeated, deadpan. From an 11-year-old who spent weeks making them gifts? Oh, Rachel, don't twist my words. We all agreed. It's settled. If you want to come alone, you're welcome. Just don't bring Chloe. My jaw locked so hard I thought I might crack a tooth. And that's final, she added, with the grace of a door slamming in my soul. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I just said, evenly, understood, and hung up. I leaned against the wall, breathing like someone had unplugged all my emotions and left me on survival mode. Then I felt a presence behind me. Chloe. She stood in the middle of the hallway in her soft pajama pants, eyes red around the edges but still dry. Her voice came small and careful. What did she say? Can I come? I crouched down and pulled her into a hug, slow, gentle, so I didn't break her. No, I said softly. Even if you could, we're not going. Chloe nodded into my shoulder. Okay. Her voice was steady, but I could feel the tightness in her body, the kind of quiet hurt that sits under the skin like a bruise. We're going to do something better, I said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She looked at me with those wide, hopeful eyes that always undo me. Like what? I smiled. And it wasn't a nice smile. It was the kind of smile that makes villains reconsider their life choices. You'll see. Because right then, in the stillness of that awful, perfect moment, something clicked into place. A decision. A clarity. A cold, steady resolve, and while Chloe padded back to her room and curled up under her blanket, I picked up my phone again. 3 hours later, their lives would start to fall apart. But right now, I just stood there, staring at the doorway where my daughter had disappeared, and I finally understood. This time, I wasn't going to let them hurt her without consequences. Not anymore. If you'd asked me years ago why I always felt like a stray cat standing outside my own family's window, watching everyone else eat warm casserole while I gnawed on emotional gravel, I wouldn't have had an answer. Now? Oh, I have answers. I have answers, documentation, emotional scars, and a rage that could power the eastern seaboard. But let's rewind, because none of this started with a Christmas text. This started decades ago, long before Chloe ever picked up a glue stick or whispered, "Do you think Grandma will like it?" This started with the childhood cosmic joke otherwise known as being the middle child in my family. And yes, I can hear the universe laughing. Stephanie, my older sister, exited the womb ready for Broadway. She was loud, sparkly, and dramatic in a way that made teachers say things like leadership potential, while I translated it as someone please sedate her. Tyler, my younger brother, was the adorable, mischievous golden boy, baby Jesus with a baseball bat. And then there was me, Rachel, quiet, nerdy, a background character in my own household. My mother adored children with volume knobs permanently stuck on attention. My father adored peace and books and fixing things that technically weren't broken, which meant he adored me. Dad and I were the only two soft-spoken people in a house that sounded like a marching band trapped inside a blender. Some nights, when Mom was out being the social meteor she always was, streaking across town in a trail of cocktails and half-finished gossip, Dad and I would make grilled cheese and sit in silence. A comfortable silence. A finally nobody is yelling silence. He'd glance at me from across the table and say things like, "You know, Rachel, there's nothing wrong with being quiet. The world needs quiet people." That man was my anchor, which is why the day he got sick, the ground under me cracked. His illness crept in slowly, little hints, little pauses, little winces he thought I couldn't see. And then suddenly, it wasn't little. Hospitals, medications, that faint smell of antiseptic that burrowed permanently into my memory. I spent more time by his bedside than anywhere else. Mom visited, of course, but always like a guest star on a show she didn't really watch. Meanwhile, Stephanie breezed in to talk about her latest social drama. Tyler came for the vending machine snacks. I stayed, because he needed someone who wouldn't fill the room with noise. We talked sometimes. Mostly we just existed in that quiet way we had always understood. And then, one night, when he looked more tired than I had ever seen him, he asked me to sit closer. "Rachel," he whispered, "I need to tell you something. Before I go." I felt something cold slip between my ribs. "Dad, don't—" "No, sweetheart. Listen." What he told me next felt like someone had switched my life into a different genre without warning. He suspected my mother had cheated. A lot. Enough that he had done a secret DNA test. And I, awkward, quiet, unfavorite me, was his only biological child. I remember staring at him, blinking like the news was buffering in my brain. He apologized for waiting so long to tell me. He said he didn't want to blow up the family while he was still alive. He said he loved Stephanie and Tyler even if they weren't his, and he didn't want to be the reason they felt unwanted. Then he took my hand and said the words that shook me more than anything. "I left everything to you. The house, the one we lived in, and the apartment we rented out. All of it. It's yours." I nodded, because that's what you do when your father is holding on by a thread and giving you truths that could set the planet on fire. I didn't cry until much later. When he died, I was 17, a minor, barely holding myself together. And that was when I asked Mom, gently, cautiously, already bracing, whether there had been a will. She didn't blink, didn't hesitate, didn't stutter. "No, there wasn't anything," she said, casually flipping through a magazine like we were discussing weather patterns. "Everything naturally passes to the spouse. That's how it works." I remember feeling an odd, nauseous swirl in my stomach, like I'd just heard a familiar song played slightly off-key, but I didn't have evidence. I had no document, no lawyer, no adult power, just a dying man's whisper and a mother who lied with the grace of someone who'd been doing it for decades. So I let it go. Outwardly, quiet kids become excellent observers, and even better secret storage vaults. Fast forward a decade. I grew up, married Eric, who is an actual saint disguised as an army doctor. We built a calm, stable life, a life where I didn't have to compete for oxygen. Then Chloe arrived, my gentle, brilliant, soft-voiced girl, who looked at the world like it was a puzzle worth solving. Her diagnosis at 5 didn't surprise me. It explained her quiet intensity, her hyper-focus, her difficulty with loud environments, her way of practicing conversations in the mirror like she was studying for an exam. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't broken. She was just her. And she adored my family. Painfully enough, she adored them. The cousins, Owen, Ella, Ruby, all loud and bright like their parents. The exact kind of kids who steamroll quieter ones without even noticing. Chloe tried to keep up anyway. Rehearsed jokes, memorized games, studied their preferences like she was preparing to be interviewed by royalty. And Mom? Grandma? My daughter looked at her like she hung the moon. Do you know what it's like watching your child try so desperately to fit into a family that once stuffed you into the margins like a footnote? It's agony. Like watching your younger self walk into the same buzzsaw, and so every holiday, every birthday, every forced cheer dinner, I went. I smiled. I pretended not to see the favoritism. I swallowed the echoes of my own childhood. For Chloe. Only for Chloe. And then, about a year ago, something in me snapped awake. I don't even remember what triggered it. A weird comment from Mom, a look between Stephanie and her, a passing remark about family property. But suddenly, the old suspicion unfurled inside me like a venomous plant. So I did something I should have done years ago. I investigated, quietly, privately, without telling anyone. Public records are patient, unemotional things. They don't lie. They don't play favorites. And what I found made my hands shake. The will existed. It was valid. Everything. The house my mother lives in and the apartment she gifted to Stephanie was legally mine. Mine. My father had done it exactly as he promised. My mother had hidden it exactly as I feared, and I didn't sue. Because Chloe loved them. Because she wanted so badly to belong. Because she would have been devastated. So I swallowed it. Just like I swallowed everything else. Until last night. Because when Mom texted Chloe that she wasn't welcome at Christmas, that was the fuse. And what I did next, well, let's just say silence was no longer in my nature. And the explosion was coming. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to be so furious your eyelids vibrate, I can confirm it's exactly as glamorous as it sounds. That was me the moment I shut the bathroom door behind Chloe and heard the soft click. That tiny, polite little sound that meant she's hurting too much to let anyone see her face right now. My kid. My soft-spoken, gift-making, people-pleasing kid. And the people she adored most had just told her she wasn't wanted. Every cell in my body went incandescent. I walked into the kitchen like I was entering a combat zone, yanked my phone out of my pocket, and scrolled straight to Natalie, my closest friend on the planet, the only lawyer I trust, and the woman who once threatened to sue an airline on my behalf because they lost my luggage and my will to live. Her contact photo popped up. Her holding a mug that said, "Trust me, I'm a lawyer," which suddenly felt more like a battle cry than a joke. I hit call. She picked up on the first ring. "Rachel?" Natalie said. "Talk to me. My mother told Chloe not to come to Christmas." A beat of silence. Then, "Absolutely not. Where are you?" "I'm coming." 20 minutes later, she barreled through my front door. Hair in a messy bun, coat half-zipped, legal bag slung over her shoulder like she was about to drop-kick the judicial system. She didn't bother with hello. "Show me." I handed her the phone. She read the text once. Her jaw flexed. Not in confusion, but recognition. Because she already knew everything else. The will, the stolen inheritance, the whole year I'd spent sitting on a bomb. "Okay," she said, eyes narrowing. "What do you think about ending her entire holiday? Is that Legal? For you? She was already pulling out her laptop. Always. She took over my dining table like she was staging a coup. It's Christmas Eve, I said. Perfect, she said. People remember consequences better during the holidays. I meant, shouldn't we wait? She looked up sharply. Rachel, she blindsided your kid. You've waited 11 years longer than I would have. Sit down. I sat. She typed with terrifying focus, keys rattling like she was writing a spell. Your mother's party starts at 6, right? Yes. Great. We'll serve her during dessert. My eyebrows tried to leave the country. 30 minutes later, she spun the laptop towards me. Review this, she said. Everything accurate? I read the header. The name of the plaintiff, Rachel. The defendants, Mom. Stephanie. Mom's husband, Frank. Seeing it in print made something inside me go deadly calm. Yes, I said. Everything is accurate. Good, Natalie said. Then let's serve them. We? I asked. She grinned the grin of a woman who passed the bar exam and now uses that power exclusively for righteous chaos. Oh, I'm delivering it myself. I blinked. You're... what? Rachel, she said, packing the documents into a perfectly innocent-looking holiday gift bag. This woman stole your inheritance and psychologically kneecapped your kid. I am not missing the opportunity to hand her the consequences in person. I had no arguments, just awe. Meanwhile, Chloe was curled under her blanket in her room, hugging her stuffed fox, taking the deep, shuddering breaths she took when the world overwhelmed her, and my heart cracked for the 1,000th time. I whispered through the doorway, I'm right here, sweetheart. She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. I knew she heard me. Natalie straightened, smoothed her coat, and picked up the gift bag. You ready? She asked. No, I said. But go. She nodded and marched out into the cold like a revenge-driven Christmas angel, and then I waited. The house felt too quiet. Not peaceful, just tight, expectant, like every wall was holding its breath. At 6:17 p.m., my phone rang. It was Mom. The kind of call where you don't even need to answer to know the venom waiting on the other side. But I answered. Rachel! She shrieked, proving she was alive, conscious, and exactly as dramatic as expected. What is this? Speakerphone. Definitely on speakerphone. I could hear the party in chaos behind her, clattering plates, raised voices, people gasping. What is what? I asked, my voice cool enough to frost the windows. This lawsuit. You sent a woman to my house like some kind of... that witch. With a bag. And she said, I've been served. Ah. Natalie was officially a witch now. I'd let her know later. She'd be thrilled. Correct, I said. How dare you? She screeched. On Christmas? In front of everyone? Behind her, I heard Stephanie. She's trying to make us homeless. And Tyler. This is insane, Rachel. You've lost it. I waited until they burned themselves out like malfunctioning fireworks. Then I said quietly, You stole my inheritance. Silence. Real silence. The kind that drops so fast you can hear your own heartbeat. You were supposed to give everything to me when I turned 18. Dad left it all to me. You hid it. You gave the apartment to Stephanie. You kept the house. You lied for years. And I let it go for Chloe's sake. For her. Someone inhaled sharply. Someone else whispered, What is she talking about? Mom sputtered. Rachel, that's nonsense. You told my daughter she wasn't welcome, I said. You broke her heart. You broke any reason I had to protect you. Stephanie jumped in. We were just trying to... No. My voice cut like glass. Don't lie. Don't embarrass yourselves. You all decided she didn't belong. Another silence. a colder one. "You should be ashamed," I said. "I'm done pretending we're family. I'm done giving you what was mine. I want it back." They started shouting again. Mom, Stephanie, Tyler, all desperation and denial and fear. But none of it mattered. Natalie had already filed the paperwork. The wheels were already turning. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt the power shift. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply said, "This isn't up for debate." And I hung up. The phone didn't ring again. Not for a long time. I stood there in the doorway of Chloe's room, listening to her soft breathing, and I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Resolve. Sharp and steady. But even then, with the lawsuit delivered and the phone silent, I knew it wasn't over. Not even close. If you've never had to sit on the edge of your kid's bed and explain why her entire extended family decided she wasn't worth a folding chair at Christmas, let me tell you, it ages you 10 years in 10 seconds. Chloe was curled into a tight ball under her blanket when I walked in. Her hair was sticking to her cheeks, and the stuffed fox she loved so much was mashed against her chest like it was the only thing keeping her together. "Sweetheart," I whispered, sitting beside her. "Can we talk?" She didn't look at me. Not at first. Then she turned her face, eyes swollen, voice thin and cracking. "I tried so hard, Mom." Those 4 words punched me harder than anything my mother ever said in her life. "I know," I said. "I know you did. I practiced. Everything," she whispered, like she was confessing to a crime. "I tried to talk like them. I tried to be fun. I even tried to wear the shirt Ella said was normal, and I still wasn't good enough." Her voice broke on the last word, and something inside me went very, very still. Still enough that if my emotions were a lake, you'd see a warning sign that said, "No swimming. Rage sharks." "Chloe," I said, keeping my voice calm because the alternative was screaming into the drywall. "Them not wanting you doesn't mean you're not good enough. It means they're not good enough for you." She blinked, processing. "Some people," I continued, "are never going to like anyone who's a little different, or softer, or smarter, or quieter. That's a them problem, not a you problem." "But why don't they want me?" she asked, eyes filling again. "Because they're cruel. Because they're petty. Because they don't deserve you." But I chose my words carefully. Because they don't understand you. And people who don't understand something often act mean to it. She looked away, picking at her blanket. "It hurts." "I know," I whispered. "I felt the same way when I was your age." Her head snapped toward me. "You did?" Oh, so this was the moment. The moment where I told my daughter something she deserved to know, even if it would sting at first. "Yeah," I said softly. "They didn't treat me very well either. But Grandma is always saying, 'Grandma lies,'" I said, gently but firmly. "A lot." I took a breath. No going back now. "There's something you need to know. Something I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want you to feel caught in the middle." Her shoulders tightened, worried, bracing. "Your grandfather," I said quietly, "left everything he owned to me before he died. The house, the apartment, everything." She frowned. "But Grandma lives there." "She wasn't supposed to," I said. "She hid the will. She pretended it didn't exist. And she gave the apartment to Aunt Stephanie even though she had no right to." Chloe's eyes widened. "She stole it?" "Yes." "And she knew it was supposed to be yours?" "She did." Silence. Then Chloe whispered, "I admired her." I nodded. "I know, baby. I know. She's not a good person, is she?" That was a knife right between the ribs. People can pretend to be good, I said. They can smile and act nice and say the right things, but what they do, that's who they are. And what she did to you, what she did to me, that's not love. That's not family. Chloe absorbed that like it was programming code rearranging her brain. Then her jaw set, softly, but definitely. I don't want them in my life, she whispered. A part of me wanted to cheer. A bigger part wanted to cry. Instead, I leaned in. You won't have to. She hesitated. But what about the apartment and the house? We're taking them back. Her eyes widened again. We can. Yes, I said. And when we do, you know that program you've always wanted? The summer intensive for digital art? The one with the mentorship and the travel? Her breath hitched. The one that costs a lot? The one we couldn't afford, I said. Until now. She stared at me like I'd just told her unicorns were real and also taking new applicants. Really? Really. She exhaled. Long, shaky, overwhelmed. But there was hope in it too. A tiny spark. The beginning of healing. The next morning, the smear campaign began. Because if there's one thing my mother can't stand more than being held accountable, it's being held accountable publicly. By noon, she had called half the extended family and apparently performed a dramatic monologue worthy of a hospital soap opera. According to her, I was making them homeless, I was greedy, I was unstable, I was trying to steal their livelihoods, and I'd ruined Christmas for no reason. By 2 p.m., my phone was blowing up. Cousins I hadn't heard from since Obama's first term were suddenly texting like we were trauma bonded. Is it true you sued your mom? What's going on? Your mother is saying wild things. Are you okay? So I told them. All of it. Chloe's exclusion, the hidden will, the stolen inheritance, the illegally gifted apartment, Stephanie's participation, Frank living in property he had no right to, and the fact that I'd stayed silent for Chloe, and for no other reason. The shift was instant. Replies rolled in like dominoes tipping over. I had no idea. That's awful. Your poor daughter. Good for you. She stole from you? Jesus. You're doing the right thing. Mom's smear campaign died so fast it didn't even get a funeral. 2 days later, Stephanie showed up at my door. She looked like she hadn't slept, and her husband hovered behind her holding one of the kids' coats like a man preparing for an evacuation. You can't do this, she blurted before I even said hello. Where am I supposed to go? Where are my kids supposed to go? You should have thought about that, I said calmly, before you decided my daughter wasn't worth a seat at Christmas. It wasn't like that. Don't lie, I said. It's embarrassing. Her face crumpled, and for 1 second, I felt a flicker of pity. But then I remembered Chloe sitting alone with a handmade gift she would never deliver, and the pity evaporated. That apartment was always mine, I said, and you living there was never free. It cost my daughter her chance at having a family. Stephanie's shoulders sagged. She murmured something like an apology, but it wasn't for Chloe. It was for herself, and I was done with that. Start packing, I said quietly. You have time, but you do have to go. She left trembling. The court battle came weeks later. Mom, Stephanie, and Frank tried everything. The will is invalid. Rachel waited too long. We thought the house was ours. She wants to punish us. We're victims. Natalie dismantled them like IKEA furniture built without instructions. When the judge ruled in my favor, confirming I was the rightful heir and ordering them to vacate both properties, the look on their faces was something I will not lie. I will treasure forever. Not because I wanted them hurt, but because Chloe finally saw consequences for people who had hurt her for years. That mattered. When we walked out of the courthouse, Chloe took my hand and squeezed it. This is ours now, I told her. And so is your future. She nodded, her eyes bright with something I hadn't seen in weeks. Hope. You know what? She whispered. I feel okay. And just like that, the world didn't feel so heavy anymore. Because after everything, the lies, the exclusion, the betrayal, we ended exactly where we were meant to be, free, together, and building a life where no one would ever again make my daughter feel small. Not now. Not ever. So, what do you think? Too far? Not far enough? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more.